Carp Fishing Japan here, and this week, not like last week, I'm carp fishing. So I'm on a lake called Lake Yogo, in the centre of Japan. One of my favourite venues, I think. Come here quite a lot. I've been here just about every weekend for the last 6 weeks. Now, sometimes on my own, sometimes with the kids, but really good chance of a big fish, and a good chance of a bite as well. I'm on the north end of the lake, wind in my face, which is great. It's a bit weedy. This end is weedy compared to the rest of the lake, but I can get a drop. So I put in about 3/4 kilo, and I need to just rig some rods up, because when I was trying to get a drop, I did lose a couple of sets of old rigs and leads and stuff. So one rod's ready to go. Need two to set up. Baits in. It's about 4 PM. Should be able to get all that sorted and get the rods out before dark. Hopefully, you can get a nice landing and leave them in for the night. Hopefully with that we'll catch a big fish. There's definitely a chance of a mid-30, perhaps in a 40, depending on what shows up. And I suspect I'm going to have to drag it out the weed if I get one, because there's a big weed bed to the right. But that's just the nature of this peg. The lake's pretty busy today. You can't maybe cuss this with my shoulder. There's a guy in the bench peg where I like to fish. Excuse me. And there's a number of people at the south end, which is a lot deeper. I don't know why they're down there, to be honest. But a number of people down there not caught anything. Look like they're camped up for the night, so they're not moving. Yeah, there's some water coming at the bottom end, and maybe you can see it just about there. There's a little white dot on the horizon. That's a big bore pipe coming in from a lake under the side of that mountain. It's a mountain, it's a hill, isn't it? So there's water coming in there, but it's a good peg. The guy on the right of it, I know him really well. He's fishing since this morning, not caught anything yet, which is a surprise, because I dropped in there for a couple of hours a couple of weeks ago on a big 30. Really good peg. I was going to get on the left hand side of that water, but to be honest with you, it's a bit difficult to get under the trees and cast out without a bait boat, which I've not brought today. So I've come on the north end in the wind. This is normally a good peg too. I'm not seeing anything. It's too big to have a look around, looking every peg. I've got good faith on the end of the wind, in the weed, on a peg that's got history. I think I'll be all right. So with that, I'm going to sort the rods out. Right, I'm respooling this rod. I'm using Sanyo Nylon GTR Ultra 16 pound. I don't know if you can get this in Europe, but it's really good. Really abrasion resistant. Silky smooth, casts well. I had the odd knot go when I'm pulling him, testing him, but it seems alright. I really like it. It's dark green, which maybe not a popular colour. Yeah, it's my line of choice. Been soaking since yesterday, so it's all damp already. Just get this leading, get the joining knot at the bottom of the spool so it doesn't hinder casting. I'll pull that right down as well, try and embed it under the previous coils. Better. Right, going with a very simple tubing setup. Light coloured tubing. Bottom's very light coloured here, so hopefully it'll blend in a bit better. think it's Korda. The Korda stuff's very heavy, I like it a lot, it's easy to thread. Tail rubber is a solar one. The solar plastic is very soft, and I really like that tail rubber. Comes off quite easily. But let the clip of the lead clip slide out easily. Lead clips, a Fox one, it's got a pin in it. I think any lead clip is all right as long as the quick change swivel doesn't go in too far and you have difficulties hooking over the loop. I mean, this Fox one today. Solar ones kind of swallow the swivel up, so it can be a bit difficult. But anything with a pin in it is good for me. And I've just realised I've got very few leads left. So I've got a 2-ounce tournament lead on here. Probably a helicopter variety as well, but it should be okay. But you know, ideally I'd have about 3.5, on which I've got some on order, but they haven't arrived yet. So you know, should it break, it should be relatively safe for the fish. You know, with that length of that, I'd like a little bit longer tubing. It's probably 15 inches there. I'd like a little bit longer, probably 2 foot, 3 foot. You know, as long as I can thread normally. But I've only got short lengths in the bag now, so that's 15 inches. It'll do. Well, it's about 6:30 in the morning and we've got a bit of good news. We've had one. Got a little bit of video on the GoPro which I'll splice in, or I will have spliced in I guess, or will splice in. But I had a recast this morning about 4:45, got up at first light. I was a bit disappointed. It was flat calm this morning when I put the rods out, and I could see this weed was basically up all over the peg. I thought it was just kind of out to this side and over there, and I thought there was a channel down the middle where this river, which I'll flip over to, a small stream comes in, and it generally keeps this weed down because of the way it grows. I thought down the middle of the peg was clear, but it's not at all. It's quite a lot of weed, a lot more than I thought it was. So quite disappointed. I didn't think I was fishing. I'm going to guess last night those bat leads were held up in the weed. So I had a recast, put one in a spot where I can see there's no weed, which is quite close in the left. I put 2 as far as I could cast basically over the weed, so they should be clear as well. So I've got 3 rods, I had 3 rods fishing. Saw a few roll, saw a couple of like just kind of tails flopping out, which is a really good sign because it obviously means you're on them. On a big lake like this, I guess it's what, 450 acres. That's nice. And then about 6, I guess it's about 6:30, 6:45 now, about 6:20ish. Left rod, the one that went in the clean bit closer in, ripped off, and I've had a fish which is it's just under 40 pound, 38 something, 38.14. I think it was 17.6 kilos. Just downloading the photos now. That was a mega result, absolutely mega result. It's just another one, another really big fish this year. It's been an amazing year so far, but that's just another one. I'll put the rods out again, so we're fishing again. Three rods out there, right through bite time. Really confident we get another one here. Got the GoPro going, hopefully we'll get it on camera. Kipper. Jesus, really big kipper. pound. Zero. $17.65 kilos. Is that really? £39. $38.13. Wow. Right, I thought I'd do a piece of this weed that I've mentioned. It's called Hishimo. Mo is weed in Japanese, so Hishi is the kind of variety. It's one of basically two types of weed in this lake. There's Hishimo and there's some Canadian. The Canadian comes up later in the year and in different places. This stuff grows in shallow water. I've seen it grow up to about 10 foot. This length here I've broken it actually when I was bringing the fish in. It's about 8 foot. It tends to grow in the margins, it tends to grow where there's no flow. That's basically the seed pod is this thing got here, and that kind of moves to the water and settles where there's no flow. So the seed pod settles, you can see some of the roots here that have grown since, and basically it's just a very, very long strand that grows right up to the surface, and it's just got a couple of leaves on the top. It's not, from a fishing point of view, the problem is it creates like a blanket. You can't, the surface just is covered with these leaves, and you can't really, your rig goes in, it's almost certain to get caught through it. But, with it hanging vertically like this and creating a big surface, actually, if you can get through like a PVA bag or something, it's not necessarily a problem. It pulls up very easily, so the fish goes through it, it just rips out, and there's nothing to those roots in the silt. They just very quickly rip out and gather around the fish. The strands here are relatively weak, that'll just break under in the fight. So it's not a major problem from that point of view, but it's very, very prolific. It grows very fast. I've seen this grow a foot in a day, no problem at all. You fish in a spot with no weed, and then suddenly you've got weed. It comes up from nowhere. Very, very invasive. I don't think it's well liked over here in the waterways. Right, I thought I'd do a quick piece on the rigs I've been using over the last few weeks on here. I've used a very similar rig for years on Lake Yogo. I think it reflects the education of the fish, and the venue in terms of a pressurised venue. So nothing complicated here. It's got a blowback rig. It's got a 15mm wafter on it. Size 8 long shank hook, blowback ring mount on the shank, a little kicker, the little broken bit, which is going to show up on the camera, little broken bit the back of the kicker to give that some movement, and then this end less important, but it's a quick change anti-tangle sleeve and a loop. It's about 10 inches long, and the hook is very, very sharp. I've sharpened this myself. I like the nail test. I think it's a good way to do it. This caught a fish, and it's still very sharp. Something I've learnt this year: I had a lot of hooks going blunt in the water, or even you sharpen them up, you tie a rig, they're lovely and sharp, you put them in the hook box, come back next week, and they've gone blunt, or they'll fail the nail test. But some people think that's sharp enough. I don't. I just want absolutely sticky sharp. So I've started using Vaseline. Now, I was a bit worried at first that it would put the fish off, maybe they taste it or feel it, but actually it makes no difference at all. I don't know if that Korda stuff is the same as Vaseline, but I basically just got a tub off eBay, just get the hook and just pull it into the tub I've got, up to the bend, and pull it out. It just looks like it's too much on it. I'll just give it a bit of a clean off and just wipe off the excess. But if it's, you can visibly see it on the hook, I'm okay with that, and the fish don't seem to mind at all. It's a big surprise to me. I thought they would. The braid itself is, I've been using a 15-pound, which is really light for this lake, really light for Japan. 15-pound PB Products. I think it's snake skin, not jelly white. It's a softer one of the coated braids they do. But I also use a Korda one. I use that in 20 pound. I think do a 15, 20 pound, and that one is called, I can't remember, stiff link, soft link. You won't find it at the back. Got it completely wrong. End trap. This stuff's alright. 20 pound. I've had a camera underwater in this lake, and the silt is quite light coloured, some sandy coloured. So using a light brown braid or light brown kind of colour on the rigs is something I try and use, so it blends in. So this gravel brown is about a good match for it. It's as good as you're going to find. The PB Products one is about the same colour as well, so it's not going to be too stand out too much. I can't do it on this peg because of all the weed. I did it last night, which was basically effective, but I do like to use bat leads as well. You're not fishing for bleeps here, you're going to get a full-blooded tape. So, putting a bat lead close in, it helps when you land the fish, it helps keep the line down, and I think that makes a real difference on here. I think the fish can see the line or know there's lines in the water. I don't think it's very good. The margins just fish mega slack. Out in the pond though, fishing 80 yards, I'll just put a bat lead on, 10 yards out. It's, people worry about bat indication, it doesn't matter up here. You're not going to get a bleep, you're just going to get a screaming take off these. So that's something else I'd do. So those are the key points. I mean, that's nothing complicated about that. There's no steering shrink tube bits, there's no balancing stuff. It's just keep it very simple, keep it small, keep it unobtrusive. There you go. Right, so it's getting towards 10 AM now. I was thinking about going home, but I had a little pickup on the left-hand rod, which I kind of got a bit of contact with, but it was only a small fish, and it just threw the hook out when it got wrapped around some weed. I'm sure it was only a small one. I think it was either a very, very small carp, like a baby carp, or a hera buna. There's still carp here. They're still like rolling. I see the odd tail come out the weeds. In fact, I can see one just there now. You see that? You see it waving at us? It's just about there. So they're still in the peg. I just recast the left rod where I had that bite. I did cast it straight after the bite. I had another go at it about half an hour later-ish, to make sure it was in a good spot. If I get low down, crouch down, I can see the weed a bit better. And so I've cut down a little bay, a little cut back in the weed. I recast my far rods as well, just to make sure they're over the weed line. There's definitely a weed line here about 80 metres. Look at that there, it's ridiculous. About 80 metres out. So I put the right rod over that, and then I went to do the same with the middle rod, but it got snagged up in something. There's a snag out there, I'm not sure what it is. Lost a couple of end tackle in it this weekend. And so I basically just put the same hook bait on a soft braid rig in a PVA bag and just smashed it right into the middle of the weed. You know, we'll have to see if that works. I think that I'm not a fan of like pellets and stick mix and that in this lake for the big ones, but the presentation should be really good. So if, you know, let's see what happens. It's out there. It's in. Look at the state of that tail there. So yeah, so let's see what happens. Probably give it about lunchtime, I reckon. That's a bite. Gigantic hera. Right, 12 o'clock on the Sunday, I'm going to call it a day. I've got the rods out, packed up, ready to go. Dried stuff out a little bit after the morning rain. Quite pleased with the result. I've had a big fish there, 38 pound, yeah, which is a good result. I don't believe anyone else on the lake has caught anything, and I think there's about 5 people on, so that's good news. You know, from this end. Yeah, I'm not back next week. Maybe get back in 2 weeks' time, maybe. I don't think I'll be able to get in this peg with the weed as it is. I think the weeds will just keep going up and up and up. So probably going to be more restricted on peg choice at the shallow end. Although we'll have to find somewhere, or we'll go at the deep end. But that's me over and out. We'll catch you next time.